Hey guys, so before we begin, I want to issue a spoiler warning, okay? So if you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, you need to stop the video here because I will spoil the crap out of that movie, including while I discuss the other topic that we'll be discussing in this video. So yeah, this video was only supposed to be about Deadpool and Wolverine, but this past Saturday evening at San Diego Comic-Con, Kevin Feige broke the freaking internet. And I have been bombarded with social media messages, emails, just every possible way that people have to contact me, asking me to talk about what was announced this past Saturday. So here we go. So this was a packed Comic-Con. There was representation to every major studio, every major production company was represented. Not just Marvel, but Disney, Warner Brothers, DC, Nickelodeon, Prime Video. Just the list goes on and on and on and on and on. There were a lot of huge panels and a lot of announcements. So when I tell you that in spite of all that, in spite of the fact that this was one of the most stacked Comic Cons in the history of the convention, that they still controlled the conversation with one announcement, it's insane. It's beyond impressive. It shows that whether people want to accept it or not, Marvel Studios still has some juice, all right? So there was some excellent build-up towards this announcement. There was a lot of revelations and confirmations building up to them finally unveiling this big piece of news. The first revelation on the way towards this announcement was that the confirmation that the Fantastic Four movie would take place on another universe, apart from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, apart from the Sacred Timeline, on one of the branches of the Sacred Timeline, where the aesthetic of that world is very retro, futuristic 60s. And that in that world, the Fantastic Four have been there the whole time, from the beginning of the MCU, from the first Iron Man, from 2009, all the way until now. And they are either the world's only superheroes or that world's most famous superheroes. So we already knew that that the main antagonist in that movie is going to be Galactus, played by Ralph Ineson. So what I believe is going to happen in that movie is that the Galactus is going to be threatening their world, their universe. And when the dust clears at the end of that movie, the Fantastic Four from that world are going to end up on the Sacred Timeline, on the MCU, and become a permanent part of the main universe. So the next confirmation that we got, the next thing that was in the air, but we hadn't gotten any confirmation for, was that they were refocusing the next two Avengers movies. That Avengers 5 was no longer going to be Avengers Kang Dynasty, due to the unfortunate circumstances with Jonathan Majors. Lo and behold, we got the confirmation, and now the Kang Dynasty has been changed to Avengers Doomsday, which implies that now the main villain, the big bad of the multiverse saga, is going to be Doctor Doom, who will potentially make his first appearance either as a cameo in the Fantastic Four movie, or as a post-credit scene in the Fantastic Four movie, or in Avengers Doomsday, and also be the villain in the very next Avengers movie, which is Avengers Secret War, which should culminate the multiverse saga. Now, while I trusted Marvel Studios with the whole idea of Kang being the big bad of the franchise, of the multiverse saga, um, I wasn't crazy about it. That never sat right with me, and that has nothing to do with the Jonathan Majors situation. Just as a comic book fan, as somebody who is familiar with Kang, that never sat right with me because, to me, from my point of view, Kang is a big enough villain to be the main antagonist in a movie, but not a big enough villain to be the main antagonist throughout a series of movies or an entire saga. Like, he's big, but he's not Darth Vader big. He's big, but he's not Thanos big. Doom is. Furthermore, the secondary reason why I didn't think Kang was a good choice for this, and Doom was, is quite simply because in both versions of the Secret Wars comic, both the version from 1984 and the version from 2015, the main antagonist in those two comics is Doctor Doom. In fact, I believed in this so much that I honestly thought that what they were going to do was pull a bait and switch, and at the end of the Kang Dynasty, Kang would be defeated, and it would be revealed that Doom was the puppeteer, that he was the devious orchestrator, the mastermind behind everything. Very much in the same way that they revealed Thanos at the end of the original Avengers movie, that Loki was not the main bad guy, that there was a bad guy behind that bad guy, and that was Thanos, and he was the one to worry about. So that's what I thought they were going to do. So to me, this change felt organic. It felt like the logical pivot when things went awry. So, these two movies, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War, are going to be the two biggest movies of this current saga, the two most important movies of this current saga. So who are they going to get to direct them? And lo and behold, they revealed right there in Hall H that the directors of the next two Avengers movies are going to be the directors of the last two Avengers movies, Joe and Anthony Russo. I can't find any reason to complain about this. Don't know why anybody's complaining about it. Don't get it. Don't care to get it. This makes all the sense in the world. Joe and Anthony Russo are the best directors Marvel Studios has ever had. All four of their movies that they directed for them were hits. 4 hits in a row. Winter Soldier is still considered to be one of the best movies, if not the best movie, to ever be produced by Marvel Studios. Civil War and Infinity War made over $1 billion, and Endgame made over $2 billion, making it the highest grossing movie, the most financially successful Marvel Studios movie of all time. Who do you get to direct these super crazy crossover superhero movies? You get the experts, and right now there are only 2 experts, and those are the Russos. I will say that I will feel even more comfortable with this decision if they get Marcus and McFeely back, the writers of their 4 movies. They wrote all 4 movies that the Russos have directed. I think those 4 guys are an excellent team. They really need to get the band back together, and if they bring Marcus and McFeely back, then I will be even more comfortable with this decision than I already am. I'm already feeling pretty good about it. Okay, so here it comes. The big announcement, the one that broke the internet. The question is, now that Doom has become the most important character in these last 2 movies, the big bad that was behind everything, the villain who will close out this entire saga, who is going to play Doctor Doom? And lo and behold, they revealed that the actor who is going to play Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War is Robert Downey Jr. Now, personally, as a comic book fan and a movie fan, I have gotten so much entertainment out of watching people's erratic reactions to this announcement. Holy crap. A lot of people confused, a lot of people downing it, and I don't get why people are reacting like this, but I love it, and all they're doing is promoting these movies, hyping these movies, whether they mean to or not. Now, one, I don't see why people are confused about this. People keep saying, how can he play Doctor Doom? He died. Yes, Tony Stark died, but all of his doppelgangers from the multiverse are still out there. All of his doppelgangers can be anything. This is the multiverse saga. Fantastic Four takes place on another universe. On that universe, anybody can be Doctor Doom. He can look like anyone, including Robert Downey Jr. Okay? This has been a consistent theme throughout the multiverse saga. In Doctor Strange, in the Multiverse of Madness, John Krasinski is Mr. Fantastic. In the upcoming Fantastic Four movie, Pedro Pascal is Mr. Fantastic. This past weekend, and please keep in mind, I did give you a spoiler warning, but this past weekend, a movie just came out in which Chris Evans plays the Human Torch, same actor who plays Captain America in the MCU. Same franchise, different universe. So, if that can happen, if freaking Chris Evans can be Johnny Storm in one universe and Captain America in another, then Robert Downey Jr. can freaking be Iron Man in one universe and Doctor Doom in the other. Okay? There should be no freaking confusion, especially when this has been the most stylized and high concept sci-fi saga thus far in the franchise. Now, to address the naysayers, to address the people that don't think that Robert Downey Jr. is right for the part, and some that even think that Robert Downey Jr. is going to play it exactly like Tony Stark, I have to ask, are you freaking high? This is Robert Downey Jr. we're talking about, one of the greatest actors of our time, one of the greatest character actors of our time, a man that was nominated for an Oscar for playing Charlie Chaplin, one of the biggest cinematic icons in history. Somebody that when people went to see that movie, they had a preconceived notion of what Charlie Chaplin was like before they even saw Robert Downey Jr. play it. And Downey nailed it so freaking hard that he was nominated for an Oscar for his role. Furthermore, he just won an Oscar for Oppenheimer. And that's the guy you're doubting? That's the guy you think is going to play a role exactly the same way as the previous role? The guy that jump-started the Marvel Cinematic Universe? That's the guy you're afraid is going to purposely piss off the fans and purposely embarrass his boss and his friend and his friends in the Russos? That guy? You're going to doubt the people who have the best track record. Joe and Anthony Russo and Robert Downey Jr. To quote Morgan Freeman, good luck. Now, the one legitimate complaint that I've heard, that I get it and I sympathize, I've been there, is that people feel that a Romani actor, somebody of Romani descent, should play Dr. Doom, as that is his background in the comics. I get it, I've been there. You've heard all my rants about Bane in the movies, in the Batman movies. Here's the reason why I can justify that, at least for the time being. This is not the Prime Universe Doom. This is not the Doom from the Sacred Timeline. This is not the Doom from the MCU. This is Doom from the Fantastic Four's universe in this world. In their world. In that retro futuristic 60s world. Okay? As far as I can tell, they only plan to use Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom throughout this whole multiverse insanity. Okay? This is an alternate version of Doom. It's an alternate version of Tony Stark. And Robert Downey Jr. is a very expensive actor. So it really seems, logistically, that they will only use him for these two huge movies. Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War. Now, If those movies go by, if that ends, Secret Wars comes in, comes out, succeeds, and it's gone. It's over with. If they conclude the multiverse saga and they continue doing multiverse stuff after that, and Robert Downey Jr. continues to play Doctor Doom after that, then I agree. Then you guys were right. All the naysayers were correct. This was a dumb idea. They are purposely trying to take advantage of the audience. Okay? But as long as this multiverse insanity is happening and they're telling this very stylized, crazy sci-fi story that was 2015's Secret War, where Doom tries to reshape the universe in his image, and heroes from all the different universes are fighting on the same world to restore the universe, and then we finally get a new Prime Marvel universe. Basically what a lot of people from Marvel Studios are referring as a soft reboot. Everybody in the same world again, but a lot cleaner, a lot more streamlined. If that change is not made, if he continues playing, if they continue doing multiverse crap, if they continue with him as Doctor Doom, then you were right. I apologize. You were correct. All your concerns were justified, and I concede. But for now, I trust Marvel Studios. Okay? This is a relatively young company. They've only been around for about between 15 to 17 years, depending on where you count the beginning of the company, whether when the company was founded or when Iron Man came out. It's up to you. They've only been around for about a decade and a half. And in that time, they've given us more good than bad. In that time, 9 out of 10 promises have been kept. That's an amazing record, especially when compared to their competition, when compared to Warner Brothers and DC. And hopefully that will change with James Gunn. But for now, if there is made out of a handful of studios that deserve the benefit of the doubt, Marvel Studios is one of them. To me, is number one. And I will continue to give them the benefit of the doubt until, like I said, they prove me wrong after the multiverse saga. Let's see what they do after that, and we'll find out. But for now, it does not make sense to judge movies and judge a performance that we are yet to see. Anyway, so there you go. Those are my 2 cents on the matter. I'm putting this to bed until those movies start coming out. Okay? Deal? Deal. All right. Let's move on. Let's move away from something divisive and let's move towards something that brings us together. Because, in my opinion, fandom should unify, not divide. So let's talk about something that made lots and lots and lots of fans happy: Deadpool and Wolverine. Holy friggin' God, we finally got the yellow suit. It only took 24 years and one appropriately placed joke by X-Men 97. What did you expect? Black leather? My God, it was like pushing a boulder up a hill. It was kicking and screaming. But finally we got it, and in the most appropriate movie ever for us to finally get that essential part of the character, his wonderfully ridiculous costume. But I think to fully express the greatness of this movie, I have to address its weird, crazy trajectory to the movie theater, to production, to become a movie trilogy, to become one of the greatest comic book based franchises of all time, one of the highest grossing R-rated franchises ever, if not the highest grossing R-rated franchise ever. So this weird butterfly effect that led into the Deadpool film franchise started with the one comic book panel in which Deadpool says that under his mask, he looks like a cross between Ryan Reynolds and a Shar-Pei. And this was brought to Ryan Reynolds' attention, and he looked into the character, became a fan of the character, and became obsessed with the idea, with the potential of playing Deadpool, which then led to him actually playing Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was one of the first Fox X-Men movies that was universally hated. X-Men The Last Stand was divisive, but this movie was just universally hated. And what was truly hilarious was that the general consensus towards X-Men Origins Wolverine was, can we get a do-over? It wasn't, this movie sucks, I don't want to see anything that looks like this movie ever again. It was like, can you please just redo this? And so, of course, they redid it. We got the Wolverine. And again, people, it's not as bad as the last one, but can you please do this again? And then we finally got Logan, and that was awesome. But one of the biggest crimes against fandom that X-Men Origins Wolverine is guilty of was the way they portrayed Deadpool. They completely got the character wrong. They got the perfect actor to play him, but they got the character completely wrong. And that was something that didn't sit right with the fandom. It was something that was always one of the major bullet points when complaining about that movie. But what was beautiful about that incident is that it didn't deter Ryan Reynolds from trying to do it again, to redo it, to get his do-over. So he bothered Fox for years to let him make a proof of concept, a computer animated short showing them what a Deadpool movie would be like. And Fox wouldn't budge. And apparently the person that finally got them to concede and give them the money to produce this proof of concept was none other than Hugh Jackman. Hence the joke at the beginning of the first Deadpool movie where he says, you know, you're not going to be able to guess who I had to fundle in order to make this happen. I'll give you a clue. He's got a pair of smooth criminals down under. He's talking about Hugh Jackman. So Hugh Jackman has always been a part of this narrative, even before these movies happen. So they make the proof of concept, they show it to Fox, and Fox turns it down. Now, everybody who hears the story always thinks, oh, Fox, they're idiots. No, Fox is a company, and by all indications, big budget R-rated movies are career suicide. They are a prelude to failure, all right? Because a big budget movie needs a big audience, and by making it R-rated, you're limiting the number of people that can go see the movie, all right? So it's easy to throw Fox under the bus, but if you stop and think about it, it makes sense why they would be so apprehensive about making this movie. So, of course, famously, the proof of concept, the Deadpool short, leaked on the internet. To this day, people still theorize that it was Ryan Reynolds himself who leaked it, and I'm sure if you're theorizing that you are right. And of course, it went viral, and millions upon millions of people saw it, proving that this franchise had an audience. And that finally tipped the domino and started the domino effect that led into this insanely awesome trilogy of movies. And of course, the first Deadpool movie comes out, is massively successful, the second highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, only second to Passion of the Christ. So, of course, there's a sequel, and of course, that's massively successful. Didn't make as much as the first movie, but it still did really, really well. Furthermore, they re-edited that movie. They did a PG-13 version, released that, and that made a ton of cash as well. So, we knew that it was only a matter of time before there was a third movie. And even before the first movie came out, it was constantly teased that potentially one of these movies would include Deadpool meeting Wolverine. It's just one of the most iconic pairings in comics, It's like peanut butter and jelly. It makes sense. And on top of that, there are references after references after references to Hugh Jackman and Wolverine throughout those first two movies. This was always in the air. This was always part of the mythology of these movies, even before they started. But of course, the big monkey wrench in the works, the spanner in the machine, was that in Logan, at the end of that movie, spoiler alert, seriously, if you haven't seen Logan, go watch Logan, it's awesome. But at the end of that movie, Wolverine dies. And they make a lot of Ryan Reynolds makes a lot of references to that in the second Deadpool movie. Awesome. So people thought, okay, that's it. Like the opportunity of getting these two characters together is over. But lo and behold, Hugh Jackman did an interview where he said that even though he had retired as Wolverine after Logan, because that was the perfect way to end the story, that he would return one more time if it was a movie with Wolverine and Deadpool. And Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are really good friends in real life. They're constantly doing things together, so that made sense that he would return to help his friend. And then, of course, Fox went bankrupt, so it didn't feel like it was going to happen. And then, of course, Disney bought Fox and bought the rights, but didn't plan to continue any of the Marvel Fox franchises. So that was a bit problematic for some time. But lo and behold, Kevin Feige's like, I love Deadpool. I really want to keep that franchise going. And somehow, some way, they worked it out. And Deadpool 3 was happening, but Deadpool 3 needed something huge attached to it to justify coming back. Ryan Reynolds asked Hugh Jackman if he would come back and be Wolverine one more time, and the man was true to his word. He did it. He came back, which was announced in one of the most hilarious videos ever, where Ryan Reynolds is on a couch giving us an update, telling us there's going to be a Deadpool 3, and Hugh Jackman walks by. Hey, Hugh, you want to be Wolverine again? He goes, yeah, sure, Ryan. Awesome. So, my God. So, I tell you this story for two reasons. One, that the hype has been there even before these movies started coming out. And secondly, that the ongoing theme of this entire franchise, and especially this third awesome movie, is redemption, is characters getting a do-over, which is represented towards the experience that we had with Deadpool, seeing a really poorly realized version in X-Men Origins Wolverine, seeing the proper version finally, and then seeing that succeed. Because may I remind you, when the Marvel comic book movies first started, there was a very anti-comic vibe that those movies have. A vibe that was kicked off by that infamous line where Wolverine says, you guys go out wearing these things, and Cyclops says, what did you expect? Yellow spandex. That was a middle finger to the fans who love these comics, and they want them to be stylized. I'll never forget a day that I was talking to my cousin, who's one of the biggest X-Men fans on the face of the earth. We were talking about X2 and how great it was, and I was very enthusiastic, and he was just, pretty mellow about it. And I'm talking about it, and I'm pointing out all the awesome things about this movie, and finally, this guy who loves X-Men a hell of a lot more than I do, finally spoke up and said, yeah, it was fine. I just wish it was more like the comics. And that stuck with me for years, that, yeah, these movies are good, but it's like they're embarrassed that they're comic book movies. And Deadpool even makes this joke in the movie where in this last movie, when he sees that Logan is wearing the yellow suit under his clothes. It's like, finally, you wore the suit. It's like, you're acting like you're not embarrassed to be in a superhero movie. And again, this theme of redemption is again represented by this alternate version of Wolverine that Deadpool had to find in order to replace the Prime Wolverine, the one that died in Logan. So just a wonderful, beautiful theme, a wonderful story that was told behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, which is perfect for a franchise that stars a character whose main superpower is not the ability to regenerate, but the ability to break the fourth wall. So much awesomeness in this movie. I find it difficult to figure out where to begin. Yeah, character that breaks the fourth wall, making this the most appropriate franchise to address the multiverse. I love Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I love Spider-Man No Way Home, but this is an even better fit for Deadpool, the character that's aware that he's in a movie, that he's aware that he's in a film franchise, and he's aware that there's a more successful film franchise running parallel to his, and he wants to be a part of it. So that's perfect addition to the multiverse saga. Makes all the sense in the world. I want to address that amazing montage in which Deadpool is traveling the multiverse looking for a replacement Wolverine because the Wolverine from his universe died. Again, a sequence that fully embraces the comics and the comic book world and shows you almost every major version of Wolverine, or the most iconic moments that we know from the franchise. We get to see the Wolverine that has the accurate height to the comics. He's 5'3". He looks a lot shorter in that scene to me, but hey, we get to see Wolverine from Age of Apocalypse with the big hair, and he has a stump. He's missing one hand. He had the rock and roll, like glam look from the time. We get to see Wolverine crucified at an X from Uncanny X-Men 251. We get to see Wolverine in the tan, in the brown and yellow costume, which is my favorite version of the costume, specifically from the issue of the Incredible Hulk 340, when they have their second round after his first appearance in the Incredible Hulk. And yes, the Hulk was gray in that issue, but him being green in the movie doesn't kill it for me. It's a really fast reference. We need to identify the character as the Hulk as quickly as possible. Doesn't bother me. Furthermore, they recreate the iconic cover of that comic where Wolverine pops his claws and you see the Hulk's reflection on the claws. Awesome. We see Wolverine as Patch, his criminal alter ego who usually hangs out in Madripoor. And the biggest surprise for me personally, the movie theater that I was in didn't get a big reaction out of this, but I did, was Henry Cavill as Wolverine. Something that was discussed for some time. Henry Cavill replacing Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So that was cool. I was nothing but respect to him for agreeing to that cameo. So again, here's a sequence that shows you that we're not embarrassed by the comics. We love the comics. We're fans too. Here's all these things that we know that you'll appreciate. We know there's a select group of people will get these jokes and these references. So to me, this third movie is this beautiful love letter to the fans who have been there from the comics to the movies and until now, those early films until now. But things really start to get extreme with the fan service, and it's wonderful fan service that I would never complain about. But extreme with the fan service, the moment in the movie where the TVA vanishes Deadpool and Wolverine to the Void, which we were introduced to in Loki Season 1, Episode 5, according to Deadpool. But a specific section of the Void where characters and things from the pre-Marvel Studios Marvel movies are vanished to. Things that are now superfluous in the comic book movie world are now vanished and discarded into this void. A place that's like Mad Max and is ruled by Professor Xavier's secret evil twin sister, Cassandra Nova, played beautifully by Emma Corrin. Holy crap, what an amazing performance. Terrifying, captivating, a little bit sexy, just all the adjectives. All the respect in the world to this woman. What an amazing villain, what an amazing performance. But more importantly, and most appropriately, why she's the main villain, Cassandra Nova was a villain that was teased over and over and over and over again, who was supposed to be the villain on multiple X-Men movies. It seemed like every other X-Men movie they were teasing that she was going to be the main villain, and then they would change their mind. And generally speaking, they would just bring Magneto back, which is understandable because Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender are friggin' awesome. But this was a character that was repeatedly discarded for somebody bigger, for a bigger character over and over again. So it makes perfect sense that this would be the villain that was vanished to the void. This was the character. So another thing that had major anticipation, her first appearance. But the moment that Deadpool and Wolverine land in the void, immediately we get callbacks. Immediately we see cameos from all these characters that we haven't seen in forever. We see Aaron Stanford as Pyro. We see Ray Park as Toad. We see Tyler Mane as Sabretooth. I mean, this is huge. This was 24 to 20 years ago. Between 20 to 24 years ago. We haven't seen these characters. So that's awesome in itself. And then we are hit with the cameo that I spoiled earlier while I was talking about RDJ as Doom. The return of Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. Now, this was one that I will hand it to people on social media because lots of fans predicted this, that they were going to do this, because multiple people involved with this production have connections to Chris Evans. Ryan Reynolds is friends with him. Kevin Feige has his number on a speed dial, can call him in. So this was one that we see coming, and I think everybody saw coming. And I love how self-aware they were, how this was the first big cameo that we got. And just all the love and respect to Chris Evans to come back and play this character one more time and just be this egotistical dickhead that is Johnny Storm. And I love him that way, not criticizing him. Just a complete opposite of the noble and dedicated Captain America. Just awesome to see him again. One little complaint, one just itty-bitty little personal complaint. Let's refer to this as a meaningless fanboy gripe. Please stop killing members of the Fantastic Four in gruesome, horrific ways. Please. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, freaking Reed was turned into spaghetti and his head was exploded. And now Cassandra Nova peeled Johnny like a grape, all right? It was horrific. And furthermore, I love the Fantastic Four. Please stop killing them this way. I really, really, really don't want to see Sue die. And I especially don't want to see Ben die. He's my favorite Marvel character. That would break my heart. Just going to throw that out there. Whew. All right. So after that, our heroes escape and they inevitably find what are the rebel forces in the void. The heroes from alternate universes who have been standing up to Cassandra Nova this whole time. And the entire group is made up of characters from other movies that were discarded, very much like X-Men Origins Wolverine, that the fans just went, okay, that was fine, and just turned their back on them. Or movies that didn't happen at all, movies that were teased very much in the same way that Cassandra Nova multiple times almost appeared in the X-Men, Marvel, the Fox X-Men movies. Ooh, mouthful. And we just get a Gatling gun of cameos here, of, well, cameos are not the right word, more like returning stars, finally coming back, very much in the same vein as Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back as their respective versions of Spider-Man, Patrick Stewart coming back as Professor Xavier, Kelsey Grammer coming back as Beast, and of course the biggest, Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. So very much in that same vein, but specifically those characters from those movies that were the foundation on which Marvel Studios was built on. Their movies were proof of concept for Marvel to get their own studio and handle their own business and produce their own movies. If it wasn't for those early movies, all those Marvel movies produced by Sony, Fox, and Universal, and New Line Cinema, Marvel Studios never would have happened. So to turn our backs on that is harsh and just unappreciative. So the fact that this movie plays tribute to those characters and show you, hey, they're still relevant, they matter, they should get a proper ending, is such a wonderful, beautiful sentiment that could only come from a beloved Canadian actor / producer like Ryan Reynolds. Anyway, but of course the characters are X-23, aka Laura Kenny, played by Daphne Keane. Got it right. Almost flubbed it. Jennifer Gardner back as Elektra. Channing Tatum, after years of getting teased as this character, finally gets to play Gambit. I was one of the major naysayers to him playing Gambit, but that doesn't change the fact that there was a lot of people who wanted it, especially Channing Tatum. So all the respect in the world to him, and I'm glad he finally got this long-term wish fulfilled. And of course, the number one for me, the biggest reveal during this sequence, the return of Wesley Snipes as Blade. One of my favorite comic book movie franchises, the first two movies at least. The third movie famously had that urban legend attached to it that Wesley Snipes hates Ryan Reynolds. But of course, that's not true. That's just internet rumors. So wonderful to see the actor and the character return, as Blade was the movie. Blade in 1998 was the movie that jump-started the comic book movie boom. I wouldn't be making this video, you wouldn't be listening to me right now if it hadn't been for that first Blade, if it hadn't been for Wesley Snipes. So it couldn't have been more appropriate for him to come back as this character, and boy, does he still have it. Holy shit. What is it, like 26, 27 years later, after playing Blade for the first time, he's back. He still looks awesome. He's still a badass. He still got it. He's still Blade. Just absolutely wonderful. There's this joke in the movie where they talk about all the different Punishers they had in the Void, and Wesley says, there's only one Blade, even though there was a Blade series where somebody else played Blade, and there's an upcoming Blade reboot with Mahershala Ali in it, playing Blade. But in a lot of people's minds, he's still Blade. He will always be Blade. So that's the way I accepted that line. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, it's a movie about redemption and about paying tribute to all these great characters that blaze the trail for what we have now. And that is wonderful. And then on top of that, it's funny. And then on top of that, has some kick-ass action sequences. And on top of that, has some kick-ass fight sequences. And then on top of that, it has some of the most amazingly heart-wrenching dramatic moments that any of the Deadpool movies have ever had. Just some of the most impressive performances out of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Like, they brought their A game. And I just want to state right now that this, in my opinion, is one of the three greatest comic book trilogies of all time. The other two being the Captain America trilogy and the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. And right alongside them, if not over them, because shit, man, Deadpool nailed it. Deadpool doesn't miss. All three movies, excellent. I would say right now is the best one. Best comic book movie trilogy of all time. Just gonna call it right now. Of course, the movie alludes to something major, that this is not the last time we're gonna see Deadpool, as we get a little teaser of the future. We see this footage of Thor holding Deadpool. Thor holds him. So we're getting a tease that there's a high probability that we're going to see Deadpool again in Avengers Secret War, which would be very appropriate with this movie retconning things and this movie adding Deadpool to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as there is this wonderful comic book that I highly recommend, which I think is called Secret Wars Deadpool, or Deadpool Secret Wars, where they retroactively add Deadpool to the Secret Wars event comic from 1984, which he was not in originally. And they add him to it, and they explain in that comic that the reason why we don't remember Deadpool being in that comic is because his involvement in those events were erased from memory, which is pretty hilarious. So now, retroactively, something that was not planned before, they're adding Deadpool onto, they have officially added Deadpool to the Multiverse saga, but more importantly, they're adding him to the Secret Wars movie. So very much looking forward to that. A lot of people are calling for Hugh Jackman to come back one more time as Wolverine, since it's the Multiverse saga and it's 100% believable, acceptable that Wolverine, that alternate version of Wolverine, would still be around, maybe participate in that final conflict for this saga. 100% down for that. However, the people that I agree with the most is that they should make Laura Kinney, X-23, a permanent part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and give her her movies and give her her place within the franchise. And I 100% agree. Daphne Keane is amazing as this character. I want to see her play her more, and I especially want to see her, very much as her comic book counterpart does, take over as Wolverine. I want to see her wear the yellow spandex. So can't wait for that. So a lot of people talking about what their biggest reactions in the movie theaters, in their respective movie theaters were. In my movie theater, the two parts that got the biggest reactions was when they revealed all the heroes from the other movies, which I just mentioned. Every single person that came out got a big cheer, especially Wesley Snipes. Like, I was screaming like a little girl at a Backstreet Boys concert back in the 90s. Which is appropriate because, well, NSYNC, they play an NSYNC movie at the beginning, but NSYNC song at the beginning, Bye Bye Bye. Not to be confused with Backstreet Boys, completely different. But the moment that made the audience go insane, the Captain America is worthy, that Captain America picks up Thor's hammer moment in this movie, was Wolverine putting on the cowl. When he reached back, there was a collective gasp in the movie theater. That was like a and when he put on that mask, the place went bananas. It was awesome. And I was screaming too. I had no inhibitions. I just let them go, and I was just screaming just at the top of my lungs, and it was so high pitched that some people fell under the impression there was a little girl that was in trouble, and they came to aid me, and they said, "Oh, you're just a dude. That's okay. We're good." So, man, just this is a really good time. But in spite of it being a good time, it's a movie that has plenty of substance. That's the part that is truly amazing. And so right when you are coming down from this rush of adrenaline that is this movie. The credits roll and they play this beautiful montage during the first section of the credits where it's footage both in front of the camera and behind the camera of all the Fox Marvel movies, all the movies that led to what we have now. And just, man, I'm getting teary-eyed right now thinking about it. Just a beautiful way to end it, to say goodbye. Man. So last but not least, I just want to point out that this movie's kicking ass, has some of the best reviews out of any comic book movie in history. It definitely has some of the best reviews out of any R-rated comic book movie. The reviews are good. It's already made over $430 million. It will cross the 500 mil mark, which is the magic number for all studio executives, which is the number that you want to cross for a big studio movie. It will cross that goal, that threshold, that major landmark by this weekend. So that's gonna be nuts. And it's already the #1 movie in the world. And to celebrate it in the most appropriate fashion to this franchise, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman recreated the now famous Wolverine meme. So now, this year, both Cal Dodd and Hugh Jackman, the two most famous people to have ever played Wolverine, have both recreated the most famous Wolverine internet meme in history, which is hilarious and wonderful and perfectly appropriate because that is what this franchise is. It's a franchise. They make good movies, but they make good movies that are aware of what the fans want. Thank you for your ongoing support. Thank you for listening to my rambling. I have another unscripted video coming up on Wednesday where I talk about Super Sentai again. Check it out. And guys, your love, your kindness, your support is indispensable. I could not function without it. I could not do what I do without you.